The rain was pouring down so hard that her cloak was soaked through, but Malmfrida was smiling. He was dead. Her detested husband, that rude northerner who had dared to reject a princess of Kiev, the granddaughter of Vladimir Monomac himself. Now Sigurd the Crusader would lie in the ground forever, and she would find herself a new husband. There were other crowns in the world. She barely remembered her grandmother, the legendary Jutea, from the line of Anglo-Saxon rulers. But the golden jewelry had been passed down to her, the eldest granddaughter. The heavy earrings and chunky bracelets were pieces she adored wearing, admiring her reflection in the silver mirror for ages. She felt incredibly beautiful. She had indeed inherited the striking beauty of two remarkable women, her mother, the Swedish princess, and her grandmother. The peculiar name she was given likely came from Scandinavia. However, it was hard to say for sure, and it was quite possible that Malmfrida had a Slavic name as well. After all, her father, Prince Mstislav, was also known as Harold, after his grandfather. The Norman chronicler Orderic Vitalis claimed that Malmfrida met her fate without leaving home. Supposedly, King Sigurd of Norway, returning from the Crusades, happened to pass through Kiev. There, he encountered the beautiful red-haired princess and immediately decided to marry her. Another version suggests that the girl was in Schleswig, where she met the Norwegian ruler. Regardless, their union was blessed. The young royal couple settled in Konghelle, where the king moved the capital, and that same year Sigurd embarked on a grand building project. He intended to construct additional fortifications and a temple to house a fragment of the life-giving cross that he had brought back from Jerusalem. Malmfrida was only 16, viewing the world with wonder and a touch of naivety. Why wouldn't she? The adored daughter of a powerful prince, raised in the love of her parents. Naturally, she believed her marriage would resemble the union of Mstislav and Christina of Sweden. But Sigurd quickly disappointed her. He was cold, cruel, straightforward, and clearly felt no romantic affection. The beautiful princess was merely a guarantee of a political alliance and a mother for many heirs. Months went by, and the Norwegian queen still hadn't become pregnant. Sigurd the Crusader began to spend less time with his wife, and soon he openly took a mistress, who quickly bore him a son, Magnus. For the first time, Malmfrida experienced a terrible humiliation. She felt ready to tear Sigurd apart. To find some comfort, Malmfrida maintained a lively correspondence with her relatives. Through these letters, which often took months to arrive, she learned that her sister was preparing to ascend to the Danish throne. Ingeborg had married Prince Knud Lavard, settled in South Jutland, and quickly became a mother. Another blow to Malmfrida's heart. She attempted to reconcile with her husband, especially since he had sent his mistress away and provided for their son, Magnus. It was wise to keep this bastard close, as the king had no other children. However, Sigurd showed little interest in his wife. His concerns lay with political rivals, the struggle against pagans, and his grand crusade, but not with Malmfrida. Finally, the king and queen had a daughter, Christina. Sigurd attended the baptism ceremony, gifted his wife with jewelry, and inquired about the girl's health. In short, he played the role of a devoted father. Yet, he no longer touched Malmfrida. His wife had ultimately repelled him by failing to produce a son. Moreover, Sigurd announced their divorce. The church responded with a categorical refusal. The king's wife led an exemplary life, had become a mother, and fulfilled all her duties. Enraged, Sigurd, not getting his way, ordered Malmfrida to be sent away from Konghelle. But just 2 years later, Sigurd the Crusader died of the plague. Malmfrida had to exert effort not to show her joy at regaining her freedom. The queen returned to the capital, attended the coronation of the new ruler, the bastard Magnus, and then left for Denmark to join her sister. Ingeborg's situation was not rosy either, but for a different reason. Her husband was engaged in a protracted and unsuccessful struggle for power with his own uncle. Malmfrida offered Magnus assistance. A plan was devised for a marriage between him and Ingeborg's daughter. The Danish side enthusiastically received this idea, and the queen's stepson did not object, so the union took place. The son of the Danish king, concerned about a potential Norwegian invasion, proposed a meeting in the woods with his cousin, the husband of Ingeborg. It was to be a one-on-one discussion, without witnesses, to negotiate peace between them. On the eve of Christmas, Knud Lavard set off for this crucial conversation and was murdered. The meeting turned out to be a trap. The widowed Ingeborg cursed the murderers of her husband, and her brother, Eric, vowed to take revenge. This warrior was not one to make empty promises. That same year, he supported a rebellion in southern Jutland and then gathered his forces to openly confront King Niels and his son. Ingeborg and Malmfrida anxiously awaited news. They learned that Eric had suffered several defeats, but then fortune smiled upon him. After one of his victories, he personally came to deliver the news. However, he had another reason for visiting. He proposed to Malmfrida, and she immediately accepted. When Eric ultimately defeated King Niels's army, he was proclaimed the ruler of Denmark. Thus, Malmfrida became the queen. This strong warrior, hardened by battle, unfortunately proved to be an unpopular ruler. Eric lacked flexibility and mercy towards the defeated. He ruthlessly eliminated his enemies and punished even the slightest hint of disobedience. Such a despotic style of governance could not endear him to his subjects. It seemed that only Malmfrida loved him. One day, while King Eric of Denmark was attending a lansting, a local nobleman named Sort Plav approached him to greet him. Eric nodded graciously, but Sort suddenly drew a concealed weapon and stabbed the king. The monarch died in the arms of his close advisors. The king was buried in the Cathedral of Ribe. Malmfrida mourned him, but what happened to her afterward remains a mystery. There are no records. It is quite possible that the former Queen of Norway and Denmark retired to a convent, as many widows did in her time. Or perhaps she died soon after. Malmfrida's only daughter, Christina, married a Norwegian nobleman. Her son, Magnus, would one day also become king of that northern land. But that is another story altogether. If you enjoyed this, please subscribe, give a like, and thank you for your comments.